Even though I suspected this wouldn't be the case, I had some sliver of hope that when Tamayomi began its summer tournament arc that the show would magically get better. Of course, I forgot that up until this point, this show struggles the most with in-game situations, and this week is no different. The episode begins with our girls arriving at the Saitama Prefectural for the opening ceremony. Tamaki runs into her old teammate Kazami, now the ace pitcher at Ryoken, the powerhouse school Tama was set to attend after middle school. Kazami and Yomi have a bit of a jealous spat over Tama, and it's supposed to be cute and funny, but doesn't work for a couple of reasons. One is that this show is so poorly made that any attempts at levity come off as really flat, but the second is a bit more egregious. When Yomi and Kazami have their petty argument about who Tama likes more, we're suddenly reminded that this show has up until this point failed to develop any sort of relationship between our pitcher and catcher. Baseball shows don't need to develop the story between pitcher and catcher, but you would think that a show called Tamayomi would focus on the relationship between Tama and Yomi. But for some reason, it doesn't. And that would be okay if the baseball scenes were any good, but they're not. Once again, this week's episode uses a lot of tricks to obscure its poor animation quality, most notably with more painfully done CGI shots, and even more painfully with scenes that cut to still frames during tense moments of action. There's a part where the opposing pitcher has one of our girls at an 0-2 count, and instead of showing the final pitch to strike her out, the scene cuts to a still frame of the dugout as the umpire announces the inning-ending strikeout. Call it lazy, call it rushed, call it a pandemic-induced compromise, just don't call it any good. Even the plot, which up until this point has been fine, stumbles a bit in the first round. Our girls draw Kagemori as their first opponent, who last week Yoshino scouted as a middling team that plays quick, low-scoring games. But the reason for their quick, low-scoring games has nothing to do with strategy, but finishing games as quickly as possible so they can get back to their own ball field to practice. For some reason, this team happens to be filled with misanthropes who enjoy practicing by themselves but think playing in games with other teams is boring. In order to maximize practice time and minimize game time, they have developed a style of play where they set the pace and play as quickly as possible, and where a win or a loss does not matter to them. It's a pretty ridiculous feature of this team, one that we don't even get resolved since the show decided to split this game into 2 episodes. The show is already 2/3 complete, and we haven't even made it past the first round of competition, which either doesn't bode well for our girls or doesn't bode well for us potentially having to watch a rushed conclusion. There was this really well-animated shot this week where Yomi takes a cutoff behind third base from left field. She turns around and fires a strike home to get the lead runner out, and it legitimately looks great. The camera quickly pans out and shows Yomi executing a textbook crow hop, and the shot follows the ball, highlighting the rotating seams as it makes its way to Tama. While this shot definitely caught my attention, it is the only one to have done so far in the first 8 episodes of this show, and it wasn't even at a level that a show like Ace of Diamond or Major would find attention-grabbing in such a high-stakes moment. Because even when Tamayomi does something good, it only serves to remind us about how much bad it has done over the weeks.